Hi, I'm Kevin Drinkall.
Hi, and I'm Michel Nicolai, and we welcome you to Zyzel Networks podcast.
We've been in the network industry for over 15 years, and in these podcasts we want to try and untangle the world of networking, debunk some of those myths, explain some real-world examples along the way, to help you make better choices about selecting the right tech, product, and even help you guys build faster, more reliable, scalable networks, or just to keep your kids happy at home. Well, welcome to another podcast.
So today we are talking about our cloud management platform called Nebula. And what I've learned is, Kevin, that you were part of the early development of Nebula. Tell me and our audience a little bit more how we started this development.
Yeah, sure. So in my previous role as Zyzel, I was involved in the bringing Nebula to market and obviously gaining access to some of the development process and some of the feedback that we acquired to really develop the platform in the first place. So I guess we talk about the history and what this platform really does for our customers. In the early days, before 2016, when we launched, and around the 2016 area, we were looking to really enhance the way that our customers interact with the products and all of our product portfolio. So wireless, switching, security, and even LTE and 4G at the time. And we spent a lot of time looking into the kind of problems in the industry, especially around small to medium businesses. When we talk about cloud managed networking, at the time when we launched, there were a few other vendors in the market, but no one really specifically focused on small to medium businesses. You know, there are some in the enterprise area, and those pitfalls that those vendors had that didn't really accommodate for SMB, we tried to look at how they were doing, but how we could tailor that for small to medium businesses. And some of the problems in how networking actually worked as well, some of the common problems or common things that were time consuming, we tried to automate, and how we tried to speed up that process, and how we could make the platform enable customers to scale their business as well, right? It was about how do we take the products and how do we help the customers actually scale their business and work with them rather than individually having products, right?
But maybe for the view of our audience, maybe can you make some kind of example how the reseller in SMB should operate and how Nebula could help the reseller to do his business better? What can Nebula do for him?
So I think originally, when you look at how businesses operate or IT companies operate, a lot of them back then, they operated as a kind of break fix environment where they were trying to fix problems when a customer called and then charging for their time.
So you mean that you want to be more proactive with your customer?
So that's one thing that, Nebula was designed to do, was to create some proactive approach to managing customers and also reducing overhead in time and effort. When you were deploying devices, another area was pre-configuration was a time element that many companies can't charge for. And to reduce that, we try to use the platform to enable people to reduce the overhead in pre-configuring switch, wireless, and even security now. But back then it was switch and wireless was the predominant factor. And the idea was to reduce that overhead in time and give that back to them so they could scale and address more customers.
But how about the monitoring? Because in the original setting that I remember, that people building up VPN tunnels to drag SMB traffic out of the customer's network to be alerted, to record all kinds of data.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how can Nebula be involved in this kind of...
So, I mean, if you go back when we first started and even before we launched, right, we're looking at how IT infrastructure actually works. And for small to medium businesses, there's an enormous amount of expense involved that you can't really recoup or charge for a customer. So two things is, one, especially if you're doing break fix type deployment, and that means you are responsive. You are operating a responsive environment. First thing is, we would like to help customers, and that was the aim, was to help customers migrate away from this break fix environment and be able to turn into kind of a managed service provider style delivery, where they are A, being proactive, B, they can actually charge subscription charges almost and bundle the whole process into that element. The other side of it is to enable the platform to reduce the kind of overhead. So like you say, we could, without using additional applications and software, actually have the application bundled with the device. So it doesn't require additional software or hardware to operate. The idea was to make it extremely powerful as a platform, but also at the same trying to make it effortless and scalable, so that our customers can actually use the platform and build almost their entire business processes off of the platform. So we built all the tools that would be used every day for using traffic management. So you could see traffic information, login information, status of devices in one platform without having to use SMB, without using VPNs to drag the data, without having to add additional servers to store all this information, and without actually having all the complications of remote dial-in into sites as well, right? The idea was to reduce that. I remember in the early days of doing this was you'd have to create a VPN tunnel to dial in to access things, and then you'd have to access one individual device at a time, like a switch or an access point. So it was very complicated before, and I think the idea was to alleviate that process.
So what you tell me is that the Nebula cloud managed system that we offer today is that when you buy a Zyzel product, that you immediately, when you're trying to use this product, everything comes with that product. So you can do the setup, you can do the monitoring, you can do configuration of this product just by using this platform. Is that Nebula in a nutshell?
I mean, yes, I guess so. But also we streamlined a lot of the processes. We looked at how our customers deploy IT equipment for their customers and how they need to be able to manage and monitor their customers' equipment. So we built Nebula from the ground up ourselves to address those issues. And there are lots of different types of scenarios where the scalability, the ease of deployment, the rapid access, the ability to quickly identify problems by accessing it, and even some of the things like, take switching, for example. Switching, by far, if you ask any customer, would be the least one that people actually have access to information on. They don't have access to login information without complicated log servers and processes in place. And also, they very rarely monitor apart from up and down the ports. But with Nebula, you were given this whole abundance of control that you could quickly access in really quite a slick interface. And the idea is not just even an individual customer, you could have several customers under one platform. And from day one, we built this foundation of what we call an organizational structure. So you log in, you can see organizations, and we call it org, but it's an organization. Then you have your sites underneath it, and you can create as many organizations, as many sites underneath that as you like. And then you attach the devices to that, and then you can then drill into connected devices. So the laptops, the iPads, the tablets, these types of devices, and then even drill into the user's information. So the whole platform allows you to have that scalability in there. Whether you're installing one site or whether you're installing 100 sites or 1,000 sites, it doesn't matter. You could just be your own customer, or you could be just installing it at home. The idea was that the platform was scalable to allow you to do that.
Well, why is Nebula different than what others bring into the market?
So I think, for starters, we have a free variant which is included in a majority of the products, and this allows you to manage pretty much a lot of the day-to-day functionality that you would need out of Nebula. out the box. There's no need for any additional software, like I mentioned before. So I know some of the other solutions, they kind of called them cloud solutions, but they are like a hybrid approach. They still need some kind of software, which means inevitably you need either to run it on some hardware or you need to run it on some dedicated piece of equipment that you buy, like a controller. And this obviously creates some kind of failure point. With Nebula, we built the product to directly talk to our cloud platform, so you don't have to worry about any of those problems in the deployment. We also made it incredibly easy to deploy by using an app, so you can actually scan the device, actually even without getting the product out of the box. And it enables you to launch a network in minutes. And when we say that, we really mean that you can zero touch a product. And I know zero touch gets quite heavily used, but actually by scanning on the side of the barcode on the side of the device with the mobile phone app, you can actually deliver it very easily. The other aspect is actually the hardware as well. The hardware side of things is quite interesting because when we launched Nebula, we ran into some, I would say, problematic and boundaries of using cloud managed networking. And at the early days, we had dedicated hardware that only worked in Nebula. And actually, we felt that actually is a boundary for people to enter and actually utilize Nebula as a platform. So we actually worked on our existing product line and actually migrated existing products into the cloud and allowed a kind of hybrid approach where you could dual mode it, right? So you could upgrade the firmware so that you could actually use it in standalone mode or actually use it in cloud. And if you decided that, at the time cloud was not the right solution for you, you could always remove it. And we didn't limit the hardware to only use with the cloud platform. You could use it in two different modes or in three modes in some products where you could still use a controller.
Yeah, but I remember in 2016 when we launched Nebula, then the products that we had in that time, it was dedicated cloud with the NSG and NSW, so switches and security products that are dedicated cloud. But also we saw that, as you mentioned, that our customers were a little bit worried to choose the cloud solution because, yeah, what if you are not happy with the product? Maybe you want to go back in the configuration that you liked before, yeah, maybe on the on-premises way. And when we learned, as you mentioned, that we changed that approach quite quickly because we as Zyzel are always trying to listen to our customers, how they work with the product and how they like it and what they dislike. And we saw the opportunity already, and that's what you're mentioning, that we moving into a Nebula Flex kind of product. Yeah, that's how we call it today. So with the Flex, that means that the product you buy that you can run in standalone, so you can configure on premise, or if you want to leverage from our Nebula platform, you can run it into that ecosystem. And then, of course, you can always choose what you want. So you buy the product up front and then you can choose how you want to operate. And for instance, if you don't like it, and I don't see it many, I don't know if you saw it, but
No, definitely not
I
now.
haven't seen that many people that said, I don't like the way how you do it. Let's go back on premise because the advantages that you have with Nebula, the scalability, the ease of use, as you mentioned, the proactiveness, how we can work with the customer, that we know that there is a failure upfront and not waiting for the customer to call because it's not working. Now you have the opportunity to talk to your customer upfront and say, yeah, we're already on top of it and we're working on your issue. And that's a different type of communication that you have with your customer. And what we see as well, when we changed the approach to Nebula Flex, that we saw that the boundary was gone, and that helped us a lot to bring the system as we have it today.
A lot of vendors that we see doing cloud managed networking, even management of some kind of hybrid approach where you need a cloud controller element, then their challenge is that they just manage the product. individually. They have a way to log into the product and manage it. But actually, the biggest challenge in small to medium businesses, at least for us, is how do we make those products work together as one? It's not just about management is, I guess, the first step, but it's about getting those products to work together as a single solution. So it's no longer about just, this is a switch, this is an access point, this is a gateway, and even this is a 5G product. How do we get those products to work together in conjunction to make the reseller and even the client end customers' life a lot easier? And Nebula is that foundation that we've built, right? We've worked on this approach that we want these products to work together. So when something is happening, we want another part of the network to do that. And the only way to really make that work is to leverage from cloud technology. There's no other way to really do that. And this is why it's such an important part of the life cycle of networking. I would say the experience of how networking works and even how people expect things nowadays, now that, when you want to migrate an iPhone or an Android device from one to the other, right, it's very, very straightforward. They almost do the whole thing for you. And also, it's the same as like when you remember the early days of Microsoft when you wanted to install Windows. It used to take half a day at least to put Windows on a machine. Now it takes 10 minutes. So the same approach for cloud or networking, we need to try and learn from that experience and make that whole user experience much easier. And I think without cloud, we wouldn't be able to achieve that. And that's something that we identified very early on. And, we helped our customers make that transition. And this is where we are today, where, over 100 of our products today, they support Nebula, including backward compatibility of devices. And like you say, we removed a lot of the boundary of entering the cloud managed networking and leveraging from those technologies to make our customers' lives a lot easier. And that's something that, as a vendor, we've tried extremely hard to do.
Yeah, I think you had a good point that with Nebula, the collaboration between the products that we put into the ecosystem is key, that it functions seamlessly. I think another strong point is from management point of view, because with Nebula, it's multi-tenant. So that means that you can run multiple customers or multiple organizations into the same system with one overview of all your customers, how their devices and the network is doing. If you compare it with other solutions in the market, they see that for every customer, you need to have a login, or if you want to have an overview of your other customer, you need to switch to that kind of management system because his Wi-Fi is in that system and his security is in that system. With Nebula, you have one login and you can see it all not on all your products, but also on all your customers. So that is a big, big benefit of the Nebula platform. And since it's scalable, you can create as many as organizations as you want, as many sizes you want. And that's also what you not see with other vendors, that you have that kind of scalability.
I think the other thing is the cloud platform itself has enabled us to enrich some of the products as well, right? And some of the features and functions that you just wouldn't be able to do without cloud platform or centralizing it. For example, a big problem that we see in small to medium businesses, they don't have the resources or expertise in some cases to deliver radius authentication, right? Which means you can never really deliver full WPA to enterprise. I know it's a bit technical, but it's the kind of way that the authentication on wireless works. But we built in user management into the platform so that you can still do this.
Yeah, but now you're talking about features. Yeah, you're talking about radius and authentication. And maybe it's good that we highlight some of the special features that we have in Nebula that you can use in our default setup. Let's start with the Wi-Fi. I learned that with the Wi-Fi in the default configuration, you can use mesh, so to extend your Wi-Fi coverage without any additional cabling. We support that by default. I saw that we have captive portal in there so that we can welcome our customers into our guest network in a proper isolated network so that they are not into our regular office network.
Yeah,
We do
absolutely.
roaming as well, and not the standard roaming, but even the fast and assistant roaming. So there's a lot of features that we have in this product by default. Yeah, I name on the Wi-Fi, but probably our switches have some great stuff as well. Yeah.
I mean, if you take the Wi-Fi, for example, I mean, just to give an example of how we really thought out about how the user experience is, mesh is quite, in some vendors, is quite complicated. And even I remember going back in our own product where you'd have to plug the device in and configure it, and then you could take it to mesh. But actually, by using cloud technology, and I'll dub this down a little bit, the process is you scan the product, you tick a box in Nebula to say, I want to enable mesh. And the devices have a polite communication between themselves to say, hey, am I in the same organization and site? Am I owned by you? And if yes, then just auto deploy. And this whole process is effortless. It makes the whole process of creating mesh very, very straightforward. And the same with the, like you mentioned, guest network. We can actually have a tick box that enables the device to automatically isolate traffic on a broadcasted Wi-Fi name or SSID that allows you to isolate the traffic away from each other in even in environments where you can't control VLANs, so virtual LANs, even in environments where, like, for example, the ISP router is there where it doesn't support these kind of features. So there's a lot of thought gone into the processors and how we deploy them and making the life of the engineer much easier, right?
Yeah, a lot of more features.
Way too many to go into, right?
Yeah, we won't go in all the details. But yeah, as Kevin mentioned, we have a nice app that you can download from the App Store or from the Google Play Store to help you register to product and to the basic setup, and also for any kinds of alerting. You get a nice push notification on your smartphone to see if there's any issue. So that's also a part of our Nebula ecosystem that you can use if you are on the road and managing your customers, because you want to be notified if something goes wrong or you want to have access to your customers' network.
And the other thing, great thing is firmware scheduling, automatic firmware scheduling. This is by far an easy process to do. I remember the days before, especially in switching, that was mainly the difficulty, was you'd have to go into each individual switch, either the configuration change in each individual switch. Under Nebula, you can do it all in one dashboard. You can click on several ports and apply the function all at the same time. You can add the firmware scheduling and actually update the firmware over the air. So fast and efficient over the air updates is just part of the whole process. And if I asked many of the VARs, right, or value added resellers or IT companies, if I asked them how many of you actually patch or firmware upgrade your switches, probably a lot of them, if they're in standalone mode, will never get touched once they've been installed. But yet that's like one of the most fundamental parts of the network. So you would think that you need to do this, right? And I think that's an important factor as well, that you can do these schedules. We've even got some kind of logic in there to say that, don't firmware upgrade this before this, so you don't upgrade the gateway before you upgrade the products behind it, etc. And also some fallback process, because I have a lot of engineers out there who will be saying, whoa, automatic firmware updates, and then worrying a little bit about it. But there's a whole process for rolling back. I think we've tried to think of the whole process and give you a platform or a foundation to manage all of our products and our ecosystem in one. And when I say products, we are probably one of the only vendors that has everything in the portfolio. So we've got wireless, switching, LTE, 5G products, and we have the gateways, which is very comprehensive as well. The gateway is not just a router, it's a unified threat management or an advanced threat protection device, including things like sandboxing and more advanced features, to really protect your network with really rapid response against new threats as well. So I think when you look at this whole ecosystem, we have an immense amount of products to cater for almost every type of environment that a small to medium business would actually get to as well.
So, yeah, we have a large portfolio. I learned that we have now over 100 different devices that we support into our Nebula cloud system. So that's a great achievement, and we definitely have more on this. So let's round up a little bit and highlight the Nebula features and why you want to choose for Nebula as a solution for you as a reseller. I think the biggest advantage is that you have everything centralized from all your customers. You can log in with your own credentials and you see how all your customers are doing in a great dashboard, by the way, where you see all the products that are in place with the customer. Everything is highlighted, everything is hyperlinked. So if you find something strange or odd in the presentation and you want to dig into it, yeah, just click on the hyperlink and find out what you want to see, what kind of traffic or what kind of issue or what kind of user, any kind of information that you want to learn from your network.
I don't think we could cover everything in this podcast, right? There's just so many things. I mean, really, you have to ask your question. If you have a Zyzel Nebula capable product, why are you not using Nebula? You should absolutely be looking at Nebula as a way to streamline how you manage the product. It's absolutely the way to do it. I think I understand there are some environments where you may need to have an isolated network, but if this is not the case, then you should just be using Nebula to manage the product.
Yeah, and don't be afraid, if your internet connection drops out for a second or whatever, everything remains as it is. It remains running. You can still use the local network as it is, even if the connectivity to your internet is dropping out. So that's also you see with other vendors, if the connectivity is gone, that your whole network is down. That is never happening with the Zyzel Nebula cloud platform. That's really a good feature that we can provide.
I mean, although we didn't go into massive amounts of detail on the security side of the products as well, one thing I would say is if you're doing VPNs, site-to-site VPNs, absolutely so much simpler. Over the years, VPN has been one of the number one kind of support request calls, not just for us, but I've seen it for all the brands as well, right? And in Nebula, we take away a lot of the complexity. You can click this site to that site and then just join them together and it just connects. And you don't have to go through the phase 1, the phase 2 and all these complications for those who understand how VPNs work.
Yeah, so I think if you are interested to know Nebula more, just log in on nebula.zyzel.com. You can do a trial there to see how the product looks in real life environment. So please take the opportunity to go there and look for more detail. Is there anything more to add, Kevin?
No, I mean, obviously, product wise and some of the other elements and the technologies and even some of the features that I'm definitely will cover in some more detail in other podcasts. So please subscribe or keep an eye out for these kind of podcasts as well. And thank you very much for listening.
And see you next time.